Welcome to the SBI podcast, offering CEOs, sales and marketing leaders ideas to make the number.
Welcome SBI podcast listeners and videoed podcast viewers. My name is Eric Estrella and this is Dan Perry. We are with SBI, a sales and marketing consultancy dedicated to helping you make your number. On today's show, and audio podcast, we're going to feature topics and tutorials that will help you make your number. By tuning in, you can leverage emerging best practices and receive how-to instruction on some of those prevalent go-to-market problems that exist in today's complex selling world.
Yeah, Eric, did you ever wonder why some companies make their number every year and some struggle with consistent performance? Companies come to us every day and ask for help to get more consistency in making their number, but most don't even know where to start. And it starts with strategic alignment. But first, let's define what is strategic alignment. Strategic alignment begins with a clear understanding of the corporate strategy, followed by a grasp of the interdependencies among the various functional strategies. To truly be strategically aligned, you must link these internal strategies with external market conditions. And it's been extremely difficult to do this, Eric. We found that 91% of companies are misaligned. And the main reason is the realization that companies really have tactics masquerading as strategy. This results in a lot of waste, or as we define it as thrashing. Tons of work with little productivity gains.
Got it. So I'm not Einstein, but 91% misaligned, only 9% are actually fully aligned.
Yeah,
is that an accurate statement? Okay,
absolutely.
Cool. All right, so with that, on today's show, we're going to be talking about the benefits of having an aligned strategy. A fully aligned strategy increases your chances of making your number by 4 times. Let me repeat that. So a fully aligned strategy, market, corporate, functional strategies, increases your chances of making your number by 4x. Significant, right?
Yeah, I'm going to call in on that 4x later, but let's keep going.
All right, cool. But the true reward of achieving a level 5 on the revenue growth maturity model is a lower cost of customer acquisition and an increase in customer lifetime value. So why do I care, right? So a small change in each one of those metrics increases shareholder value significantly. And in this episode, we're going to show you how to calculate each and the overall benefit to the organization.
All right. So to do this, we're going to use SBI's Revenue Growth Strategy Workbook titled How to Make Your Number in 2016. If you want a copy of this workbook, you need to go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016 report. And if you want to have someone from SBI teach you how to use it, sign up for our free workshop at salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-workshop.
All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So before we get too deep on customer acquisition costs and customer lifetime value, I'd like to walk you through some of the quantitative findings of our research related to the revenue growth maturity model. Remember, alignment is the key. The more you are aligned, up and to the right you go on the actual model itself. So these are reasons you want to get aligned. We'll go into details of each in a second, but our findings indicate 3 main benefits of aligned strategies and progressing up the revenue growth maturity model. Right, one, we already kind of talked about this a little bit, is lower cost of customer acquisition, as defined by the investment your organization makes, sales, marketing, R&D, to acquire new customers.
So that's customer acquisition cost.
Correct.
Yeah. So why do I care about that?
So we're going to go into a ton of detail on that in today's episode about why specifically you care, but ultimately it's shareholder value, right? What are we trying to do as organizations? Create equity for our shareholders, right? The same holds true with higher customer lifetime value, right? This is defined as the amount of revenue and or margin your customers generate for your organization for the duration they purchase your products and or solutions.
All right. Lifetime value. So we're going to go into how to calculate that today.
Absolutely, right? And again, why should you care? Shareholder wealth, right? So an increased likelihood of making your number is the 3rd reason why you care about having an aligned strategy, right? This is pretty straightforward. So how likely are you going to make your number today versus how likely you're going to make it tomorrow?
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into this, right? The first reason you should care is an impact on customer acquisition cost. The reductions in CAC for short for customer acquisition costs, are significant. Given that, let's say approximately 35% of revenue we found is allocated across product, marketing, and sales, a reduction in CAC, customer acquisition cost, of 30% drops more than 10% to the bottom line. Now, Eric, we got to explain that math later on, but that's huge impact. If we're going to drop 10% to the bottom line, we can, and again, get that CAC down 30%.
Yep. So, we'll talk about this in great detail as well, but for those of you following at home, you're actually seeing a graphic on your screen that shows you how cost of customer acquisition costs goes down as you mature or go up and to the right on the revenue growth maturity model, right? So that 30% you alluded to a second ago, and that's a level 5 organization, which we only talked about only 9% of companies get there. However, the benefit is significant, a 30% reduction in customer acquisition costs, right? So,
yeah, I got a question for you here.
Go ahead.
So you got this thing where, we're going from this, it says level 4 on screen minus 16% to level 5 minus 30%. That's a significant difference.
Right.
And we need to explain that to everyone and how you get that.
Yeah, so the most significant difference between a level 4 and a level 5 organization is market alignment, right? So level 4 organizations are typically aligned to one another, but they're not necessarily always aligned effectively to the market. Level 5 are aligned to the market. They're aligned to each within the organization, each functional strategy with one another, and the corporate strategy.
Got it. Okay. All right.
All right. The second reason why you should care about where you reside on the revenue growth maturity model is the impact on customer lifetime value. So SBI found best-in-class companies operating at level 5 have a 26% higher customer lifetime value versus level 1 organizations, companies with misaligned strategies, right? This directly impacts top-line revenue for years to come. And every subsequent year, right, think about customer lifetime value. Yep. So every subsequent year, it gets easy to attain the organization's revenue growth objective. So again, if you're following along at home, we're showing a graphic, and it shows, level 5 organization being at 26% higher customer lifetime value compared to a level 1 organization.
Pretty significant there, right, as well, too.
Yeah, and that's without increasing costs on that specific organization as well.
All right, so I've got some more questions for you as we get further into this and how to calculate these things, because it seems to here that's worth doing.
Yep, we're going to go deep here.
Well, the third one, as Eric mentioned before, is the probability that you will succeed in attaining your revenue growth objective. So in 2014, we found an impressive 85% of companies achieved their revenue objective. So it was an awesome year, for a lot of companies, for overall top-line performance. But those companies with aligned strategies had a 96% chance of exceeding top-line performance, while those with misaligned strategies, again, had an 84% chance of success. So if you think about that, that's a 4x improvement of the probability of success. So if I'm a sales VP, that's what I want, right? I want the probability of success. But if I'm a CEO, that even makes more value to me because I can be rest assured in front of my board to get that accomplished.
If I'm a shareholder, I want my organization to be fully aligned because, again, value to me as an owner of the company.
Got it.
So we're going to take a quick commercial break, but stick around because when we come back, we're going to show you actually how to calculate customer acquisition costs and customer lifetime value.
Each day, you receive hundreds of emails, tons of text messages, countless telephone calls, and sit in too many meetings. How do you find ideas to make the number with all this noise? The SBI blog filters all this nonsense for you and presents only first-rate ideas to make the number. Simplify your life. Subscribe to one blog and read the best content. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com and subscribe today.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Estrella. This is my friend and colleague, Dan Perry. We are with SBI. Today, we're trying to help you make your 2016 number by understanding the benefits of an aligned strategy.
So, Eric, we're using How to Make Your Number workbook to guide our conversation. We have reviewed why you want to move up and to the right on the revenue maturity model from a quantitative perspective. A couple bullet points here, right? You'll decrease your customer cost of acquisition at every stage as you move up. You will increase your customer lifetime value at every stage as, again, you move up the revenue growth maturity model. You'll increase your chances of actually making the number, which is important to shareholders, as we talked about before, and CEOs, and obviously heads of sales.
All right. So now we're going to show you how to actually calculate customer acquisition costs and customer lifetime value. We're going to use a simple scenario to illustrate how each is calculated. And let's start with customer acquisition costs. So Dan,
all right,
I'm going to ask you a few questions here, right? And this is about our company Acme Corp, not Wile E. Coyote Acme, but Acme Corp.
All right.
All right. So what does Acme do?
So Acme Corporation, right, is a company that sells perpetual software. How's that?
That's perfect. So tell me about Acme's average deal size.
Yeah, average deal size, let's round it off for simplicity, 500,000.
Perfect. All right, so how many deals are sold to new customers on a quarterly or annual basis?
Yeah, Eric, we do about 50 deals per quarter, so 200 annually.
All right, so rough math, right?
Yep.
So it's about $100 million in annual revenue for net new customers. Is that right?
It is. However, we also do about $75 million in renewal business and about another $50 million in cross-sell upsell to our current customers.
Perfect. Okay, cool. It's good context. So talk to me about what your sales expense is for the year.
So if you think through this, right, and I'm going to make some rounding again for simplicity, but we approximately spend about $20 million for Hunter team, that's our business developers, and about $5 million for our farmer team or our renewals team as well. So the spend is comprised of people, labor, right, travel, T&E, programs and systems that sales uses to acquire new customers, if you think through that, right, and how we train people and onboard them.
Got it. So what about marketing? Do you have any idea what your marketing spend is?
We
for the
do,
year?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about $5 million for all new customer acquisition programs. And so similar to sales, this is made up of labor, people, programs, but campaigns, and then systems like marketing automation software, right, dedicated to new customer acquisition.
Got it. Lastly, R&D.
Yep.
Do you have any idea what the expense is there?
Yeah, so you prepared me, you asked me before this to prepare that. So it's about $9 million as I look in the P&L. The expense is in the market research of products, product management and development associated with new products for our company.
Got it. So for those of you following along at home, we're going to show you a quick graphic that it shows you. In the sales bucket, we have about $20 million, right, for new customer acquisition. $5 million on the marketing spend and about $9 million on the R&D, right? So $34 million to do the math simple, right? You talked to me. You said you had 200 new customers on an annual basis, right? So what that actually equates to is about $170,000 per customer.
Yeah, Eric, for the audience, let's explain this, right? So what you want to ensure is that you're not removing costs not associated with new customer acquisition. For example, sales renewal teams, cross-sell, upsell campaigns, and analyst relations and marketing, things like that.
Yeah, so great point, Dan. For this example, we've actually done that for Acme, right? So our total go-to-market cost in this scenario is that $34 million in number, right? We established average 200 deals per year or so our cost of customer acquisition is $170K per customer. But we're using a very simple method here to calculate customer acquisition costs. For those of you at home that have never done this before, this is a great start, right? But for those that are more advanced, really the better way to do this is to actually look at what we would call activity-based costing. So what this does, it takes your sales, marketing, and product costs and breaks them down to each activity. Then it adds up those sum total of those activities to give you a granular view of what your customer acquisition cost structure looks like.
Hold on. You said activity-based costing, right? So give me a sample. What's an example of activity-based? How do we figure this out?
So the best way to do this is to actually run through an example.
All right. Let's do that.
So you want to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So let's essentially what we would do is what we're going to do here is identify all activities associated to acquiring a new customer. And again, so let's walk through the example. So at Acme, what's the length of your sales cycle, and how many interactions would you say a sales rep has on any given time?
Yeah, our sales cycle length is approximately 6 months, and the reps, they're having about 2 what we call major interactions per week.
All right, so do the math here. Keep the math simple. So that's about 50 interactions over that 6-month period.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Right. So how long would you say each interaction is? Call time, prep time, follow-up, different things like that.
Yeah, so it's between an hour and 2. Let's just say an hour for now. We'll keep the math simple for everyone to understand it. So call it an hour.
Perfect. All right. So about how much are you paying your sales reps on average?
Well, our sales reps make an on-target earnings of $200,000.
All right, cool. So if I'm doing this math,
Yep.
so each sales rep works approximately 2,000 hours per year.
Yeah.
Right? So 200K, that's an internal bill rate of about $100 an hour. Accurate?
Yeah, that makes sense, right? So you're saying that the labor cost of my sales force, or sales rep, I should say, to acquire new customers is about $5,000.
Yeah, in this example, that's accurate, right? But what you're not taking into consideration is, and to math on that, remember the 50 hours that we talked about earlier on the interactions times the $100 bill rate. Right. But what you're not taking into account here is the labor associated to sales managers, pre-sales engineers, right? What about the marketing spend, the allocation for R&D, right? So when you actually have activity-based costing at the most granular level, right, your most common denominator really becomes your customer, right? So how much does it cost to acquire a customer?
So, we simplified that
Very
dramatically for our audience, right? But really you need that activity-based costing to figure out the proper form of CAC. So if you're new, like you mentioned, great, that we did a simple calculation, but for more advanced, we need to get into this activity-based costing. So let's talk about how level 5 organizations are calculating the cost of customer acquisition in multiple dimensions.
Okay.
Right, so let's talk about maybe sales channels, product lines, segments, geographies, etc. This is simply knowing your cost of customer acquisition by that sales channel. This allows them to make the appropriate data-driven decisions across your organization. So let's look how we calculate customer lifetime value.
But let's go back real quick, Dan. So, why should I care? Why should I care about what my acquisition cost is by sales channel?
It goes directly to the bottom line. So if you're not caring about how much money it costs you to acquire a customer, then you're not really caring about shareholder value.
Yeah. So I challenge our viewers at home, right? I'd say a vast majority probably have a good understanding of what cost of customer acquisition is. But if they're not necessarily doing it at an activity-based pricing standpoint, or they're not looking at it in multiple dimensions or by sales channel, what have you, then they really fully don't understand how much it really truly is to acquire a customer, right? And if you don't really know that, you're behind the 8 ball, and you're not going to reach level 5 in our revenue productivity model either.
Well, and you won't lower the cost. If you don't know what it is, you can't lower it, right? So it's pretty important.
Correct.
Now, in converse of that, right, let's talk about lifetime value. We'll stay with the same fictitious Acme Corporation since we already have many of the variables defined, right? So Acme's average deal size for new customers is $500,000. The average customer stays for 5 years is what we found. But note though, when you do this, you got to leverage your churn rate to help you figure this out if it's not tracked today.
Yeah, and I think what we found is that most of our customers aren't really necessarily tracking their total lifetime value all the way through the time they transact. So it's important distinction.
Let's continue on to make sure they understand this, right? So the subsequent annual value for existing customers in our example is $125,000 for the remaining 4 years. So year 1 is $500,000. Years 2, 3, 4, and 5 are each $125,000 of value to us. So that's a total lifetime value of $1 million in revenue. So if you think about our margin now, right? So our margin's at 50%. So to keep it simple for doing this exercise, the total lifetime value is actually $500,000 in margin dollars.
Got it.
All right?
So they stay with us for 5 years, and we generate $500,000 in margin. That's essentially what it is.
Yep, that's total lifetime value.
Okay. Again, for our audience, this is a very simple illustration of how you calculate customer lifetime value, but it's a place to start. We need to make sure that our audience truly understands that if we're not calculating this today, Dan, then we really need to do it tomorrow.
So for those advanced organizations, right, you can actually calculate lifetime value in a much more complex way that takes customer churn into place as well, so that you get a true lifetime value and you can average the lifetime of all the customers that you have.
Well, it's just similar to what we talked about in customer acquisition costs, right? If you're not looking at this by sales channel, by inside versus outside reps, by geography, by product line, then you're not really making as an informed decision as you need to be.
Well, you want to look at, and then indirect too, right? So what about your indirect customers, right?
Absolutely.
So your channel partners as well as their customers as well too, who use your end product if you are an indirect. So those are all things that go into lifetime value.
Yeah, absolutely. Level 5 organizations that we talked about, right, are doing this today, and they're calculating CAC and CLTV across those different sales channels, product segments, geographies, so on and so forth. I highly suggest you do so as well. This will allow you to make the most informed strategic decisions. Remember, strategy, allocation, people, time, and money. And if you don't know where to allocate those things, then how can you truly make strategic decisions?
Well, I think that if you don't know customer lifetime value and CAC, then you're not doing your job.
That's
Period,
fair.
end of story. You have to figure that out.
Yeah.
All right, guys, so it's time for another short commercial break, but don't go anywhere because on the other side of the break, we are going to show you how to apply this to shareholder value as you progress through the revenue maturity model.
Do you have too many things to do and not enough time to do them? Is finding time to learn best practices almost impossible? The SBI Podcast is your solution. Turn time spent exercising, commuting, and traveling into productive learning time with a subscription to the SBI Podcast. SBI Podcast listeners get unique insight into real-world sales and marketing issues through interviews with your industry peers every week. Find us on iTunes by searching for Sales Benchmark Index Podcast and subscribe today.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Estrella. This is my friend and colleague Dan Perry, and we are with SBI. Today we're trying to help you make your 2016 number by demonstrating how to calculate customer acquisition and customer lifetime value and how that translates into shareholder value, shareholder wealth.
Yep. So Eric, if you recall at the beginning of our episode, we discussed the benefits of strategic alignment and progressing up the revenue growth maturity model. Those being a lower cost of customer acquisition, increased customer lifetime value, and lastly, and importantly, your increase in the likelihood of you making your number. In the last segment, we showed you how to calculate customer acquisition cost and customer lifetime value.
Got it. Similar to what we went in before break, we're going to continue using this Acme Corp example, right? So we're going to show you how lowering your customer acquisition costs and increasing your customer lifetime value creates shareholders' wealth, right? Seems fairly straightforward, but it's the most important aspect. And I guarantee you the vast majority of our viewers out there, Dan, aren't really doing this effectively today.
Yep.
Right? So we're going to take a look at this big meaty table here up on the screen.
Okay.
And if you look at that, Dan, what we're going to start to explain here is the top segment is all about customer acquisition costs, right? Which you could see CAC, right? I'm going to orient you to the top of it. We're talking about level 1 through level 5. So the current state is such. We're at $170,000 per customer acquisition cost. So as you progress up our revenue growth maturity model, you're decreasing your cost of customer acquisition. 3% in 2, 8% in 3, 16% in 4, and resulting ultimately in a decrease of 30% in customer acquisition
these are those
costs.
benchmark numbers we showed earlier, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
we
got it.
leveraged the graphic that we showed you earlier.
Okay.
So, and this is all relative to level 1.
So we're talking about the cost going from 170 grand to, at a level 5, 119,000.
That's exactly right. Right.
Wow.
So assuming the same deals per year of 200, that's a total cost savings ultimately of about $10.2 million. Right.
Yep.
So we're going to just use for our market industry EBITDA multiplier for Acme Corporation. Simple math.
Yep.
We're just using a 10 multiplier on EBITDA. Right. So what is that? That equates to $102 million in shareholder value that we just created.
It almost seems unreal, Eric. I mean, that much shareholder value that you can realize from going from a level 1 to level 5.
It does, but it's the math, right? You know, at the end of the day, you're actually decreasing your cost, of your customer acquisition, right? But that's the benefit of truly being aligned to the market and within your organization.
Yeah.
So, going back to our table here, I'm going to orient you down to the bottom section of this, and this is lifetime value, right? So, just using this relative on an annual basis. right? Just again, to keep the math simple. So we talked about average spend deal size per year of 200K, right? And then increasing at every stage, just like CAC decreases, customer lifetime value increases at every stage of the revenue growth maturity model.
Again, they're the same numbers we showed earlier, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
2, 8, 13, and 26 respectively when you get to level 5 organizations. So as you can see, we have actually increased our deal size per spend, our customer lifetime value, to $252,000, right? Again, 200 deals per year.
Right, I got it.
That's a margin increase of $5.2 million if you look down at the bottom right. We used a 10x multiplier to EBITDA on our last scenario with CAC. We're going to use the same one here. So we've created $52 million. But that's not, this is the benefit of having an aligned strategy, is that when you get CAC and LTV aligned, or excuse me, your strategies aligned, the benefit is a lower cost of customer acquisition and an increased customer lifetime value. And then we've just showed you that we've now generated Acme Corp $154 million in shareholder value.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. I mean, if you think through this, Eric, I'm selling more business at a lower cost, no additional people, same amount of deals. It just provides so much more value to the company. It's almost unbelievable. Sometimes these big numbers like this, and I kind of check out because it's too big. It's not real. How do we make this real?
So tangible. Look at the actual margin increase on the customer lifetime value. It's quote unquote only 5.2 million, right? But 5.2 million to the bottom line really is what it kind of just boils down to.
It's amazing how as you progress through the stages and you think through this, right? You're actually raising your customer lifetime value and decreasing your customer acquisition costs.
Yeah, it's the result of getting market alignment and alignment within your corporate and functional strategies.
Yep. Makes sense. So, audience, if you need help calculating customer acquisition costs, customer lifetime value, or how you would apply this in strategic decision making, please feel free to sign up for a workshop at salesbenchmarkindex.com/2016-workshop. And an SBI strategist will be happy to help.
Again, Dan, so the moral of the story is really this, right? So having strategy alignment increases your chances of making your number, reduces your customer acquisition costs, and increases the customer lifetime value, which creates shareholder wealth.
Yeah. We'd like to thank you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you enjoyed this show, I suggest you subscribe to SBI TV at salesbenchmarkindex.com/TV, or you can find us at our SBI YouTube channel. We have some outstanding content coming in future episodes that you will not want to miss. So until then, we wish you the best of luck as you try and make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on SBI services, case studies, the SBI team and how we work, or to subscribe to our other offerings, please visit us at salesbenchmarkindex.com.